Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hogstye. Happy bye week. It's one way to know that Washington won't lose, is they're not playing. This
so
is Alex
sad.
with you. I just, I always make that joke every bye week. I think that's 6 years running now.
It's always a good point to
that's
make, though.
Yeah.
pretty
All
indicative
right,
how these seasons went. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Alex here with you. I got Steve. I've got Jamal, and we have a guest, our old co-host who spent a cup of coffee with us, but he was busy with his real life at the same time. Rob Henson back on the show. Rob, welcome back. Good to have you. Hope you've been doing well. I know you're always got your fingers in a million pies or something like that. So glad to have you back on.
That sounded a little weird, but
I thought a dude from what's that? The scary movie dude with the messed up hand.
Oh, Chris Elliott. Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever his name was. That's what I thought of when you said fingers and pies.
Well, fingers and pies is a little weird. Yeah,
it's an old-timey reference. It's an old-timey saying, right? Sorry. Yes, I realize there's a double entendre to it now. I apologize.
Yeah, that's not really what Alex meant. For
No, I did not mean
SoundCloud, iTunes censors out there.
But Rob, I hope you're doing well. Family's doing good and everything?
everybody's good, man. Healthy, happy.
Great.
Been here for a few months now, so we all.
Yes, Rob is relocated yet again. I feel like you've relocated a few times. Do you just get immune to that being in the NFL? Like the idea that you always are kind of on the move, you're always having to go play like, does it just not faze you after playing college and pro ball, moving like that?
Not really. I mean, my two biggest moves obviously were to college and to
right.
the NFL. I've only played for one team, so it's not like.
But you had to jump, city to city to play even.
Yeah, that's true. No, it wasn't that big of a deal because you knew you were going back home in a couple of days. So
that's true.
Well, speaking as a resident 24-year military veteran, I can tell you at some point it's just another city.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, all right. Before we start, how many times did you move around, Steve? Because I know about DC and I know about Texas. Yeah, how many times did you?
Oh God, I mean, it's a challenge to even. You have to. I found a count that I had to define what a home was in order to even determine what the number was. Because what I eventually decided was a home is where I have my stuff.
Right.
Because I've spent like weeks and months in places that aren't homes either. So, it's a lot, Jamal. It's up to 17, 18 moves at least.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And Steve is not like 100 years old either. So that's like a move every 2 years.
You got to understand, my father was a
you were a military brat.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
It's a lot though. Point is, it's a lot. I don't have a hometown. Let's get into football.
Yeah.
It's enough nonsense.
All right, let's move on. It is midseason, so I think we want to kind of start with some midseason grades. But really, first we should do the roster updates because there was something that happened. They didn't mention this after the game. Montez Sweat breaking his jaw and now is out for a month. I don't know how that got overlooked at post game.
I don't know how you play a game with a broken jaw. More importantly.
I don't think he did. I think he went out after that.
Rob, how many injuries did you? What injuries did you play through in a game?
What's the worst one you think you played through? Let's go with that.
I tore ligaments in my ankle in college, and I played at SMU. It was like 4 days later. So I think that was probably the worst thing I ever played through. I was heavily taped and spatted up, but I think that's the worst thing I ever played through, honestly. Oh wait, no wait. My rookie year against Jacksonville, I broke my nose.
Oh, you broke it.
Like
nose is not a fun one to break, but
yeah. So I had a fracture in my nose. I was tackling. I can't remember the running back at the time. He played for the Giants too, Jennings. Rashad Jennings.
Okay.
Rashad Jennings. Yeah.
So I was tackling him from behind. I slid down and his heel caught my nose as my helmet came up. So.
And they can't tape that up either. That you just have a broken nose at that point.
Yeah, so I had a couple tampons in my nose.
In case people ever question the toughness of NFL players,
did you ever think maybe I should start wearing a visor after something like that?
Ain't no visor can save you from that. How about I just buckling my chin strap a little heavier?
Oh, okay. Oh, did it kicked up under?
Yeah, he said the helmet. Yeah, the helmet was
Oh,
falling
okay.
off.
Heel kicked
Gotcha.
up into my nose.
That's not a fun one.
Yeah, it was blood everywhere.
Luckily, the jerseys are red, so you know.
Right.
All right. All right. So what else is going on?
Well,
Steve,
Chase
with the
Rouillet
roster?
is the other one. He went to
Yeah,
IR, and then they made a bunch of back of the roster moves. They cut Jay Sternberger, who didn't really play at all, and there's been a slew of practice squad moves that bore me, so I'm not going to go into it. But the big news is, in terms of Sweat, is they did not put him on IR, which means that he could come back at any time. So
right. And the more shocking non-move, still no new kicker, which blows my mind. Yeah, but we're going to do some reviews of where things are with this team, some grades, and I'm sure we'll talk about the kicker at the end because you have to. All right, Let us start though with coaches, guys. What are your first reactions, midseason grades on the coaching staff? Rob, you're the guest, so I'm going to go to you first. Position coach, or not position coaches, but offensive, defensive coordinators. And of course, Ron Rivera. Where would you kind of grade all this right now?
I got to start at the top with Ron. I don't know. It's hard not to. His plan really didn't come to fruition because obviously Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt. So having to pivot back to Heineke, which we all thought was a legit, could be a legit starter, compete for that job. But given all the things that have happened, I honestly. I wouldn't be too hard on him. I'd probably give him like B-. Now, offensive coordinator, I'm gonna be a little bit harder on because it's just been I don't know. They kind of don't have an identity. They're just all over the place.
I harp on that all the time.
Yeah,
it drives me nuts.
So I would probably give him a C. And defensively, I don't even want to talk about that.
Fortunately, we have a show and we're talking about it. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's bad. I'll probably give him a D.
A D.
Yeah,
so,
I mean Jack Del Rio. I thought for sure it was going to be something amazing, and it's been straight out of a 1999 movie. Like you got to get with the times, brother. It ain't. You can't do the same things.
Well,
anymore.
let's stop right there and talk about that. And so what do you see in the scheme that you're saying it's, from sort of a 1999 kind of off and defense? And by that, I mean, I'm assuming you mean it hasn't adapted to modern NFL offenses. And so what do you mean by that? Explain.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, guys moving around, and by moving around, I mean, like trying to confuse the defense for the most part. I thought there'd be a little bit more pressure. Blitzing wise, we hadn't really seen that, and I thought for sure he wouldn't play favors as to, and by that I mean who getting paid more, because we've all known that once the beginning of the season started, those first couple games, Landon just was not the same playing safety. Honestly, Curl didn't play well either. So, I mean, just trying to find new ways to do things, moving Chase to DT and just, rushing him outside or, just moving guys around. So Chase isn't constantly coming off the left side, getting double teamed. You know what I mean? Being creative, let him stand up, back up, run around. Like we used to do all kinds of stuff like that. Even Jim Haslett, old ass, used to like mix it up every now and then. You know what I mean? I don't know. To me, it's just like go rush. We'll figure it out. And
I'm amazed specifically that Chase Young is always, they never move him ever. He's always lined up on that defensive right side or left side rather, no matter what. And it's amazing when you have an athlete like that. Like you said, you wouldn't put him at defensive tackle, swap sides, something.
Win. Well, when I say you put it, like we used to have packages where our D ends will line up at D tackle and our D tackle will line up at D ends, and just you run games from that. And it not only does it confuse the interior linemen, I mean, there's got to be great communication between them and the tackles. But, put him on the worst tackle, get his confidence back up. Because at this point, people have quickly pivoted on Chase and are starting to call him a bust when he can double and triple team every play. So
I think coaching wise, the two biggest sins are, one, as Alex and Rob both pointed out, the team doesn't have an offensive identity. But more importantly, I think this coaching staff just looks bored or distracted or something. At this point, they don't look energized. The team doesn't look energized.
I think we need to be a little bit more critical.
Yeah.
You were on to something. You said bored, but I just think that they just look unprepared.
There you go.
And I think that's more critical because, like, for me, I agree with you all in terms of the identity thing on the offensive side of the football. I don't really see something that they do well. I just see them getting by. And when people look at the numbers on offense, and you see, I saw this tweet that kind of that really threw me off in a way that I wanted to respond, but I just left it. But a guy said, you all wanted to see improvement from the offense. Well, these guys are 11 spots better than what they were last year. They're like 12 spots or 15 spots better than in terms of rushing offense and things like that. And in my head, I'm like, look, they were the 32nd ranked offense last year. You can only get better. The second thing is, you're talking about a rushing offense. Yes, the numbers are improving, but guess why those numbers are improving? It's because Taylor Heineke is mobile. They're not running the ball better. He's just scrambling. No. And these are things that kind of bothers me when you talk about an offense that really doesn't have an identity and Scott Turner not understanding which way he wants to go. Now, I understand injuries are taking place, but guess what? All these injuries, they did not exist the majority of the season. What are we, 2-6? The injuries started piling up probably like 2 weeks ago. And we were having these same questions and stuff like that prior to all these injuries piling up. So for me, the identity part is crazy. With an offense who does have really good pass protection, I give them that credit. They just don't have the quarterback who they can really sit back and pass the ball 35 plus times a game and feel comfortable. And I would love for them to do that. I would be fine with them passing that much, but I don't think they have the quarterback, and that's kind of what gets them in terms of when we talk about identities and stuff. It kills me, and that's kind of where I'm at, man. They just don't look they just look unprepared, man, and not really ready to kind of handle certain situations.
Yeah, they're actually, from a statistical standpoint, if you take Heineke on it, they're running the ball worse, by far worse. Yeah. Antonio Gibson's about a half a yard off of, or roundabout, approximately half a yard off of where he was last year. I like to ask Rob about a scheme thing in terms of running, because, what Antonio did in college and the very few carries he had, it's always out of a shotgun. It's never out of an eye. And it drives me crazy. And Alex has mentioned this too, especially on third downs and third and short. We're out of the shotgun. It seems to me that's an I formation thing, but I don't know from a running back perspective. And I know you're a linebacker, but you know more than us. From a running back perspective, how much different is it to run out of an eye, or like what I would call a power eye, versus out of the shotgun? Because they never do it with Antonio.
The good thing about running out of a power eye or one of those formations, whether it be 11 personnel, 12, it doesn't matter. Running out of those, that you at least are guaranteed a certain form of protection, just from a standpoint of, I know when I get the ball, I'm not getting freaking crushed like you are. Right. The one positive about the gun, though, is that it keeps the defense guessing. If you're in a shotgun formation and I'm thinking that you're going to run, I mean, you could RPO right behind my back. You know what I mean? I could take 2 steps up as a linebacker, and the RPO's shooting behind my back. So it does. There's a little bit of a guessing game when you run out of the gun. If you're in the I form, I don't give a damn if you're passing or not. I'm shooting the gap as a linebacker. So there's a different mindset as far as the defense on the defensive side of it when you're facing those two. But I would 100% agree with you. He does not seem like, and he is not a downhill runner, so to say. Right. I think most of his best runs came off of jet sweeps and shotgun, inside zones. So when he has that distraction, or he can catch somebody, a linebacker or a defensive lineman trying to two gap, I think he's at his best. But just straight downhill, I don't think that's ever been his game. I don't think they ever got anybody. I don't think they have anybody on the roster whose game that is.
Jared Patterson, maybe. A little bit.
His best bet is to get lost behind the lineman
because he's a little short guy.
Yeah,
but I like him though. I like his run style. I like the change of pace that he gives you. But I don't see any one of those guys they got on the roster being a legit downhill running threat. The days of Adrian Peterson are over.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We're talking a lot about offensive identity, but I think the defense also still is trying to find an identity. It could be. A lot of this has to do with the safety play, and I want to talk about that position group and linebackers to an extent because it seems to be hybriding now. Are we a cover 1 team, a cover 2 team, a cover 3 team? Like, I don't know what they're doing in the backfield, and how does that impact the front 7? Because and Rob, we were talking about this before the show. Landon Collins kind of playing linebacker now. He was never more than like a down low in the box strong safety, but they kept on trying to shoehorn him into this cover 2 scheme all the time, where he was dropping back and just getting lost.
There were also been times he was back there by himself as a single high occasionally.
Yeah, which made no sense whatsoever. Yeah. So, Rob, when it comes to, I want to kind of transition to that position group though. The secondary play, safety play, and specifically Landon Collins. How do you grade it right now? And where do you see that position group?
Well, I mean, to me, on the defensive side of the ball, the only thing that's a lock is that defensive line. And I think I'll agree that they've underperformed this year as well.
Sure.
Yeah. But going to that second level of linebackers, I mean, there's really nobody. Bostic was hurt, right? Is he still out?
Bostic's on IR.
He's on IR. Yeah.
He's out. I think we can't discount what that injury did to the defense as well. I mean, if you talk to guys around that locker room, or you even see it on the field, Bostic was a leader on defense. Now, I'm not building him out to be Patrick Willis or nobody,
right?
But just having that steady hand, he was for sure a sure tackler. He was decent in coverage, but having that guy gone could be something that mentally throws you off. But Landon transitioning to linebacker, I've said from day one that was a great fit for him. I've been trying to get them to do that for a year now, or saying that they should do it for almost a year now. When you think of Landon's best plays and his most impactful plays, they happen within 5 to 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. I've never seen a play where Landon made something amazing happen 30 yards down the field.
Right.
So he just gets lost in coverage. But when somebody's got to step up in that group of linebackers, and I think that transition for him is going to be good because he can play aggressive like he always plays. It does still scare me coverage-wise, him versus tight ends.
Sure.
Just from a size perspective. But you transition to the DBs, I don't think William Jackson's been worth the money this year. That's just my opinion.
I'm with you.
I don't see it. I don't get it. I'd rather throw St. Juice to somebody out there, but and see what they got. But William Jackson has not been worth the money, and I think that's taking a toll. Kendall Fuller's been Kendall Fuller, so but just not having that guy on the other side be consistent throws his game off as well, and then moving in and out of the slot. But he's been consistent. They just can't get on the same page. When one unit is playing well, the other unit is terrible. And I think a lot of this has to do with getting pressure. Obviously, they don't blitz much. The front four has not, like I said, they've been underperforming this year. So quarterbacks are having time to throw. I mean, the Kansas City game was crazy. Just watch Mahomes just do what the hell he wanted to do. As bad as other defenses have made him look, and I know that Washington's defense has more talent than most of those defenses he's faced, that was frustrating. So
I think a lot of fans will get caught up in semantics with Landon Collins between is he labeled a linebacker, is he labeled a safety? I don't think it really matters what you call him. The point is that Landon Collins is an in-the-box downhill player. Call him whatever you want. I don't really care. Point is, if you watch his Giants film from years ago, that's when he made his impact. When he was, and he could move around. He's almost kind of a weak side linebacker kind of thing, or a nickel linebacker or something. That's what he does well. And when Washington has screwed this up with him is when they're dropping it back in deep zones and stuff. He can't do that. So as long as you do what he does, I think he'll be okay. But yeah, I mean, William Jackson, it's not lost. Alex, you mentioned, I think we talked about this on one of the game recap shows recently. It's not lost on me that this entire secondary looks a lot better when William Jackson's not out there.
Right.
You know, I don't know why that
There's
is.
been 2 games in a row, right? Denver and Green Bay.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't out for either one of them, and there were fewer total mix-ups. Fewer total zone busts and all that when he's not been out there. So I don't know if it's all him or what, but they've been better without him for whatever.
I mean, look, I've never played the NFL, but I assume if guys don't buy into the scheme, Rob, am I right? Like if you don't buy into what the scheme is, it ain't gonna look good for you. And that's what it feels like with Jackson to me. Just watching him is.
Yeah, I mean, we
I
saw
think he's struggling, like struggling to get accustomed to what things going on. Like I don't know if it's a buy-in thing with him. I really think he's struggling. Like I don't think it's a mindset. Like Landon Collins is a mindset. Like he had to get
Okay,
he had to
that's
get his
fair
ass
too,
to
yeah.
linebacker.
right.
He doesn't
William
wanna be a
Jackson,
linebacker.
he don't want to be a linebacker. But William Jackson, on the other hand, he came over here for the money, but also he thought that this defense was going to take off, and he was a missing piece. And he's probably the liability.
Jamal, let's be real. Like honestly, if I'm a corner and I'm on the market and I'm looking at Washington, damn, they got Chase Young, Sweat,
Right.
They got Allen Payne up there. Oh, it's a lot of balls that's gonna be coming out quick. I'm jumping everything. So I mean, scheme wise, he didn't really care what the scheme was because those guys were getting pressure. But I do think he is a better man corner. I just think he get lost in zone, or he forget his responsibilities, or he don't trust the guys behind him. Let's not overlook that fact. If you don't trust somebody, you're going to try to do more than what your job is to try to cover for them, or you're going to do more than what you're supposed to do to try to look good or make a stop. So that could be a possibility as well. If you don't trust your teammates, you're going to be out of position because you're trying to do their job and yours. So
let's ask this question now, Rob. At what point would you have made a change, at least on the back end from the safety position? At what point would you have, after you didn't seen like the first couple of games and you noticed that there was an issue that needed to be addressed? What point would you have made the change?
Honestly, around game 4 or 5. Honestly, because when you jump out the first 2 weeks of the season, believe it or not, guys, they mean nothing. Just from an athlete perspective, they don't mean nothing because offenses don't find their rhythm until week 3, 4, something like that. Defensively, you're supposed to come out of the gate a little stronger, but if you struggle, that's fine. Week 1 and 2. But 3, if you're struggling after week 2, then most times defensive coordinators will pull everybody in and say, we're going back to the basics, scrap all the exotic, crazy stuff that we're doing. We're going right back to the basics. So 3 and 4 are supposed to be like really scheme-heavy games where you're just playing basic defense, downhill, aggressive, or whatever your scheme is. 5, if it ain't working, you got to pull the plug on somebody or something, because at that point, one quarter of the season's done, and you got to try to make a push. So, I would want to see. I want to see Kajus. I want to see some young guys out there. I can't figure out what's going on with Cameron Curl, but.
Well, let's talk about, your expertise is linebacker. Let's talk about Jamin Davis, the first-round draft pick. Obviously, he blows the athletics away and all that, but I think the fans would say he's been a massive disappointment, and you're shaking your head. So just talk Jamin
Davis. You're right. Athletically, he should have been playing for Maryland or something because Maryland guys blow the combine away or pro days away, and then they get in the league, and they're not all. Vernon Davis was legit, but not all Maryland guys. But that was the stigma around those guys. But him being from Kentucky, I thought for sure that he would be more of a hard-nosed, no-nonsense type of player, just from a standpoint of I'm gonna play aggressive. And I thought he had great leadership skills from what everybody around him was saying out of Kentucky. But he just looks lost a lot. Like, I don't know.
How much do you think that's like just him with the learning curve issue or not getting coached up? Or
I'm not giving him an excuse. I was a 6th-round pick, and I got used to the speed of the game in freaking training camp. Like, no.
Here's my theory about Jamin Davis. It's twofold. One, he should have stayed in college, which you already said. He doesn't have a ton of experience playing football. He really only played 1 season in college. And the other thing is, he strikes me as one of these guys who's relied on his athleticism for so long that he's not used to the technical aspects of the game. You can translate that to like basketball, for example. There's a lot of uber athletic guys in basketball who bust in the NBA because they can't out athlete anybody. And Davis, I think, is one of those guys. So he might just be a bust, unless he gets it together mentally. But that's my working theories. One, you ain't played a lot, should have stayed in college. I don't blame you for going after the money. It's another issue. But the other half of it is I just think he's so used to being the best athlete that he doesn't really know what he's doing from a football perspective.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. So I had that same. I'm gonna be honest with y'all because it's week 9 at this point.
Yeah.
3 weeks into the season, I didn't think he was a bust, but I said in my head, and I didn't say it out loud. I just said that I thought he was soft. I just thought he was playing soft. And that's what I thought in my head. And I kept that sentiment probably about to around week 7 or week 8. And I ended up talking to Logan Paulson, who does like some field breakdown, and he just helped me see things a little bit clearer. And I'm not saying his world is golden, but he just helped me show some things that kind of put a spotlight on Jamin Davis. And since then, I was kind of able to see what he was talking about. With that being said, I don't think that he's playing amazing. I don't think that he's playing really good. But I do see some moments in which he's becoming a better linebacker. He's understanding things, and the game is slowing down for him. Now, what does that mean right now? I still think that it's up in the air. I still think that there's a possibility that he may end up being that bust of a player. However, the past couple of weeks, starting in the Kansas City Chiefs game, he's playing he's playing better in zone coverage. And he's having some better run fits, but I just don't know how consistent they are because I haven't seen them the entire game. I've seen some moments of that. So I'm not going to sit here and say that he is a better player, but I will say he is playing a little bit better than we all think. Just to what degree, that's up to us to kind of make that point. But I do think I wouldn't say that he's playing terrible. I wouldn't say that anymore. But I did think he was soft.
I'll say this, that there is one thing that is very real as a rookie, and that is the rookie wall around week, because most of the time your season almost over if you're in college around week 10, 11. And that fatigue does start to build around week 8 or so. So that fatigue does start to build mentally more than physically. But if Jamin is a bust, we will see very soon. And they say the biggest growth in players happens between years 2 and 3. So we will see. Now, if Jamin goes from middle to outside, or if he has a position change at all, then that tells me that the coaches are second guessing him as in general. When you believe in a guy and you stick with a guy, he's going to learn that position no matter what. So if we see Jamin's position move or he has a position change, I think for sure that his standing with the organization or their mentality on him is changing a little bit. But he's got room to grow. Even if this season he hadn't been playing well, he's still got room to grow because most people in the NFL believe that between year 2 and 3 they turn a corner.
Sure. I mean, I look at him. The one thing I wonder about, I'm still not clear what his position is because they're in nickel so much now. It's not like
they've had one linebacker on the field for part of the
that's
game.
true too. Cole Holcomb's been the only guy on the field a lot.
Yeah.
It's just hard to say. Like, what is he really a weak side guy or strong, or is he playing middle line? Because in nickel, it's not like you have a real middle linebacker anymore.
Guys, there's a real mindset to each position. As a middle linebacker in a 4-3, as a Mike, I know for sure I can play aggressive. I'm calling the plays. There's set things that you know for sure that every game, every play you can count on. That your mind, you can go through this mental checklist in your mind. As a Mike, you have freedom to play aggressive. If that's not happening, then you're probably more of a will linebacker. Those things are really, really simple to identify.
Looking at these guys, and I mean, we have 2 young guys here that we're really looking at linebacker long term. It's going to be Cole Holcomb and Davis, right? Do either of them play like they have that mindset to you? Like, if you're looking at them, or is that something you can't really tell just by watching them? You have to talk to them or something. get into their head.
No, you'll know it. I mean, you'll watch a guy and you go, he's a dog. You know, he's a dog. He just jumps out. He aggressive. He can make a mistake, but he do it 100 miles an hour and he trying to knock somebody out. Like, you know,
there is Leonard rookie year.
TV, that's a dog. I don't need to talk to him. like I need to point him
so with these guys, no, you're not seeing it then. I would say, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair?
I don't think he has it yet. But I also don't think it's something that you can just turn on and develop. Like, it's not a skill you can develop. That position comes with that mindset. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm a little old school with it, but that position comes with that mindset. Like, I'm gonna wreck every freaking thing I see, and I'm gonna try to make an impact. I'm gonna be the first one to the ball. I'm the leader of this defense. Even as a second team guy, in my mind, I was like, I'm the leader of the second team. Like, they ain't no question. Calling the plays, I'm calling the coverage. Let's get it. Like, let's get it done.
Well, and you are, I hate to say it, but just, the way the NFL is, you are an old school guy at this point. Like, you played with London, who he had that mindset, let's be honest. I know he definitely would be one, but it feels like just in general, there aren't that many guys like that in the NFL anymore.
I need to get my man into the Hall of Fame, first of all.
Yeah. Well,
man,
that's a tall order. It's a tall order to get anybody who played here in the Hall of Fame.
Well, let's talk about. I want to talk about Cole Holcomb.
Sure.
We've talked about him. I've always thought that he's got a sort of a weird combination of not having the coverage skills to play, or the athleticism to maybe play on the weak side, but maybe not being quite strong enough to be on the strong side. But I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, that's just my view. What do you see in Cole Holcomb this year?
No, that you're completely spot on in my opinion. I don't think he has the strength to play strong side. I don't really see him as a Mike either, but he does.
I don't either. That's the problem. I don't know what he is.
Just build wise athletically. I do think he fits that will linebacker spot well. I like Cole, but I wish he'd take a little bit more of a leadership role. He's one of those players, like he'll get
just
up.
Growing an awesome mullet's not leadership.
No, it ain't leadership. That was easy. But no, I just wish he'd take more of a leadership role, because in my mind, he's one of the established guys on that defense.
Yeah.
And he shows up week in, week out. He's somewhere he's making a play every week that we go, okay, that's Cole. There we go. Like, you know what I mean? So I just wish he'd take more of a leadership role.
Interesting. He just seems like a bit of a tweener, in terms of, the way he plays and physically.
That's both these guys, though. If you think about it, they're both that same kind of tweener, neither's really a middle linebacker. They both probably would be weak side.
But Jamin could, team. Though, Alex. I mean, if Jamin had the right attitude, he could be. He's got it all physically.
Here's one thing that we can't overlook, though. Offensive linemen are getting bigger and faster.
Sure.
Like, guys running 4.6s coming at you, you're only gonna have so much of an impact as a tweener or as that body type. So we gotta first of all keep them clean, and by that I mean the interior linemen got to do their job, so guys can shine even more.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Do we want to move on to the defensive line?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
I do want to make one mention too, and it's going to be quick because we talked about Landon Collins for a quick second, and the one thing that we didn't speak on was the trade deadline that just passed. There was an official report out there that they were looking to shop Landon Collins. So for those who are wondering about what the future is with Landon, you kind of heard it right there. They're willing to move on from him, and in terms of his contract and his future status, two things. I don't see them sticking with Landon past the season. There's an out for the team.
Yeah.
But then also, if somebody asked the question because he's playing well over the past 2 weeks, if you would ask him to take a pay cut, he ain't taking no pay cut for this. He ain't taking no pay cut for this team. I was about to cuss. I got to remind myself to watch out. He ain't taking no pay cut for this team. He's not going to do it. He'd rather win out and find a place where they can put him back at his true position and have an opportunity to prove himself there. So that's something that kind of went unnoticed, is that he was on the trade block.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah. Who's trading for that contract? Nobody's trading for Landon Collins. No.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, we're past it, and obviously nobody didn't. Nobody.
Yeah, I
didn't.
mean, it's got 3 years left on the deal.
Yeah, we
you
got-
know, and his cap hits are, if he was playing at high levels, cap hits would be manageable, 16 million, 17 million, 15 million, but that's a lot for a dude who's kind of underperformed. So yeah, I agree. So defensive line, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit earlier. I mean, Chase Young has not produced the numbers this year that anybody expected. He has a sack and a half, I think, this year, and that's it. I've been disappointed just in the raw production of it. I don't know what's going on with him. My working theory is he needs more moves. He seems to always kind of do that same looping move around.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, that's the elephant in the room is Chase, I think, given where he was drafted.
You think about it. You spoke about Jarman Davis out athleting people in college. Last year, the league realized Chase Young could out athlete almost anybody that they got on that offensive line, and out athleting guys works on the defensive line in the NFL and college. In other positions, you find it hard. You'll be pressed to find another position that could do the same. But Chase has been getting a lot of attention. So my focus ain't on Chase. If Chase is getting all that attention, somebody else is one-on-one. Whether it be Allen or Payne or whether it's Sweat prior to the injury, we just hadn't seen that production from that other side. And then on top of that, you can't solely rely on the four-man rush 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care how talented they are. I mean, how many times, like Khalil Mack or Aaron Donald, like you can't, even those guys, you can't rely on 100% four-man rush. You still bringing pressure. You're still moving them around. You saw Aaron Donald move from D tackle to defensive end or vice versa. They even had him standing up one game, like almost linebacker depth, letting him rush. So you just got to add some. The coach need to add more moves, not Chase Young. That's what needs to happen.
I agree, man. It took him forever to blitz. Like the one time where I really noticed him blitzing was he had a couple against the Giants, but then like with Kendall Fuller on the edge, but then you don't see him anymore until the Chiefs game. For me, my eyes, I don't see any more until the Chiefs game, and they weren't getting home against the Chiefs in terms of the blitzes, and then I don't see him again until it was the Broncos game with Landon Collins. You sending Landon Collins on the edge and things like that. So for my eyes, I haven't seen it enough. And obviously for others who are watching, like if it was something where you wonder like where is this pressure coming from or where is it not getting there? Like for example, and I hate to do this, but the defensive line is getting pressure. Like if you look at the numbers, the advanced numbers, they're getting pressure
percentage. They are getting pressure percentage.
The pressure percentage is getting there, but they're not getting home. And I think a lot to do with that. And it may sound like I'm kind of splitting my points up here, but they're not getting home, and it's all like individual efforts. Like they're all getting there within their own sake, but they're not like collectively coming together. So how do you kind of combat that? First off, it comes with them getting to an understanding, but secondly, if that's not going to help, like continue to use these blitzers more. Landon Collins is a really good blitzer. Kendall Fuller, I would rather much have him at the line of scrimmage versus in coverage at this point because I don't trust him in coverage. So I always these defense backs up the quarterback, and I think that can kind of help these guys out get home a little bit more, whether it's the actual pass rusher or the blitzer.
The one thing that I do know, Chase Young mostly been playing on one side, but they have occasionally lined him up in the middle, almost like a blitzing middle linebacker. And that seems to create a lot more pressure with him. They should be moving him around a lot more. I think, Steve, you mentioned that earlier in the show. Yeah. That the one other thing, though, that's driving me nuts about the Ends is they seem to decide to go into this season without any proven backup depth. Like, they drafted a couple guys, and the one guy from Penn State, Tony, I liked what I saw from him, at least watching highlights of him at Penn State. But it doesn't seem like anybody's really making an impact behind Sweat and Young. And last year you had Kerrigan. You had depth. Even if Kerrigan, wasn't, what he wasn't in his prime, he was still effective. They needed more behind these guys.
Tony hadn't even been active for most of these games.
Yeah, I know. But that's my point. Like, they don't seem to have anything behind them worth activating anyway, really.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. I mean, guys up the middle. Who was it? Was it Brantley? Can't remember.
Caleb Brantley.
No, the other guy. There's a. Oh my
You talking about current? We talking about current?
Yeah.
All right, so we got Deron, we have Matt, and we have obviously John Allen,
Tim
Settle,
James Smith Williams.
Yeah, when you think about last year, Tim Settle made a big impact even when those guys were on the sideline. So depth is huge and important. I don't know why I blanked on his name, but yeah, depth is huge and important up front. I mean, giving those guys that extra breather to come back in fresh and knowing that production won't drop off.
Right. But
well, I think the one guy on the line that you got to give it, I would give an A grade to, has been Jonathan Allen.
Sure.
He's been a one-man wrecking crew out there, sometimes literally one-man wrecking crew, and he's produced 6 sacks, pitched for an interior lineman at week 8 is just unbelievable.
He's tied for first at his position.
Yeah,
tied for first with the guy in Philly.
Right.
I'm forgetting his name, but yeah, he's up there.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable, and thank God he's been there because he's been the guy producing for whatever reason.
And a rare guy who got paid and is now producing at a high level here.
Imagine that in Washington.
The history of Washington is usually, you got a big paycheck, go hang out. You don't have to worry anymore.
In the Preston Smiths of the world.
Yeah. I was speaking of D-line. I was kind of surprised that Matt Ioannidis' name wasn't floated around at the trade deadline.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't seem like they were that active in the trade deadline, and I feel like they should have been. You should be loading up on picks at this point.
Yeah. At this point, I think the next step for this team is to draft a quarterback. You can't be this league has proven you can't really be that successful with journeyman quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick Foles and all those guys happen every now and then, but you need a guy you need a staple guy, a glue guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even familiar with any of the quarterbacks coming out in this draft, but it's very clear Washington needs some kind of.
It's pretty thin.
Yeah, it's not a strong class, honestly. Although, so we do need to flip to offense. Steve, you just texted that, but I will tie that into what you're talking about here, Rob. As a player, mid-season, you can't look at like the draft and stuff, right? Like players, you got to still be thinking about the season, right? But do you think it's got to be tough for some of these guys now with social media? You got to be seeing all these fans who are like, well, it's time to move on, time to look at the draft, and like, does that mess with guys at all? You think, seeing that the fans have kind of given up on the season?
I don't think so. I do think that obviously this is a young generation of player, though. They're more plugged in than we were. Yeah. I mean, we got Twitter, my rookie year?
Yeah, I was going to say, was Twitter even a thing when you played? Yeah.
So we saw how that went for me. So
yeah.
But no, I think these guys are more plugged in with social media, so it's possible. But I'd be hard pressed to say that professional athletes are solely looking at reactions of fans and basing their play off of how fans react to them online.
I think any professional football player who cares one single bit about what a fan thinks needs to have their head examined. Seriously. I mean, just for God's sakes, play the game. Don't worry about what a bunch of fans who don't know what they're talking about anyway think at all. I mean, seriously, that's just crazy. We saw that
with Haskins. That was one of his
Haskins was mentally weak, in many ways, and he needed to have a better organization around him. They did Haskins dirty. I've always said that. I mean, yeah, it's partly his fault, but the team could write a book on how to ruin a quarterback and use him as the example. It's not an accident that he's been quiet and nothing's happened in Pittsburgh. Crazy. Well, that's because it's a strong organization with a strong coach and a strong front office who aren't going to put up with nonsense, and they're going to tell them you do your role, period, and don't screw up. And that's what's happened.
I also imagine the media in Pittsburgh's a little easier to deal with than the DC media scene.
I don't know about
I
that.
don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I was.
Right. He literally probably just quiet, man.
Yeah,
He's minding his business.
Well, because
head
Mike
down
Tomlin is
grinding.
not going to put up with nonsense.
He's waiting his turn.
Yeah.
Trust me, he's waiting his turn.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to turn this into Dwayne Haskins hour, but they really did not handle him well at all.
No.
You know. But in terms of the quarterbacks we have, I mean, personally, I've seen enough of Taylor Heineke. I'm not saying they should bench him for Jonathan or Josh Allen. It's going to be the same, but I think what we've shown is Taylor Heineke is a backup. Period. I think the NFL's figured him out. I think he's kind of regressing to the mean. He's not the future at all. The real question to me here is Ron Rivera's about to go into year 3 of a 5-year contract. Is he really going to start over with a brand new rookie? Or is he going to go find some other next year's version of Ryan Fitzpatrick and stick him in there? It'll piss fans off, but I wonder if that's what Ron's going to do.
Honestly, he might be on a 5-year deal, but the things that Ron has brought to this organization makes him invaluable in Dan's eyes. It's not a 5-year contract. I can tell you that. It's not. Ron's going to get at least 8. I would be shocked if he didn't get at least 8 to 10. Seriously.
That's actually surprising. I think fans are thinking it's going the other way, if anything, right now. But so you think this whole culture rebuild thing, if they're taking that serious, that's kind of where he's at.
That is a deep conversation to have, man.
Yeah. That is
done socially for Dan's image. He ain't going nowhere for a while. We all saw what Bruce did, how long Bruce stayed, and he's done way less than that.
You were in the building with Bruce Allen.
By the way, I'm pissed off that nobody pointed him out in those emails like they should have. But anyway.
You were there when Bruce Allen was there, right? I mean, what'd you think of Bruce? Did you have any interaction with him?
I listen. How much cursing can I do right now?
You can, just curse. We'll take care of it. Don't worry.
We'll figure it out. If it gets too bad.
One word that describes Bruce: snake.
Yeah.
There.
Like, could you tell that as a player, like right off the bat, or?
It's not even about how he handled me. I don't care about that. Like, it is what it is. I was injured. I don't care. I don't care. What made me upset is how he did other players. That I know for a fact he snaked them on a lot of things, whether it was money, whether it was fines, whether it was releasing them, or like the way he handles situations. No.
You see any racial stuff coming from him?
I didn't at the time, but when those emails came out, I wasn't surprised.
I say Gruden, Gruden to feel that comfortable sending that to Bruce, Bruce is
Bruce
in the same boat as John.
That's not the first conversation of racism.
Bruce's dad was down in Tampa, wasn't he? If I'm not mistaken, was he
George Allen? No, George Allen was with Washington.
He was with Washington.
Oh, but Bruce was with John. He was with John in Tampa.
Yeah, that's what. Okay, yeah. That don't surprise me at all, though.
Yeah, I think when did George Allen pass away? He passed away like 30 years ago or something.
It was a long time ago. Yeah. I don't even remember.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I've always said about Bruce, and maybe you could it always felt to me like this, Rob. Every season he went in the season planning who his fall guy was if things came up short, either in the front office or on the coaching staff or certain quarterbacks and other players. He always kind of had a plan of, hey, if this doesn't go well, it's Scott's fault, or it's Brian Lovemina's fault, or it's going to be Jay's fault. And it finally just caught up with him after 10 years, but that's what I always felt.
No, Dan, I can understand why you would see it that way. In my opinion, Dan insulated Bruce from any criticism. He kept out of those conversations as best as he could. And there was always a fall guy, but I don't think it was really Bruce setting that person up. I think it was Dan playing favorites as he does. I mean, people talk about his relationship with RG3, but his relationship with Bruce was even
tighter.
On a different level. So I'm honestly surprised. There are other names in those emails that didn't come out. So I'm wondering. I always wonder, man. Like, I mean, these are things that you know, but to have proof behind it, Yeah.
Well, listen. I mean, I've said this on the air before. I said this on our It's But Just Business show. I mean, John Gruden is not the only guy in the NFL who talks like this. I'd say probably more than not talk like that.
Well,
Go ahead,
and
Jamal.
I was going to add to your point though, Steve, and think about it from a macro perspective, just like professional leagues in general. Over the past week, the Portland Trailblazers owner is in trouble for an investigation on his side. The Phoenix Suns owner, same
We're
thing.
doing a
like,
segment on that on It's Just Business on Ron on Sarver. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like just to your point, Steve, I wouldn't be surprised at all if I'm not even going to give a percentage out there, but a good amount of owners in the NFL are acting similar to how Gruden and Bruce Allen operated. But at 10:55, I want to make this one quick point known before I have to get up out of here. To the culture thing and Ron Rivera, I 100% am backing Rob on this point that Ron is going to be around for some time. But I think the tough conversation exists when you understand Dan Snyder married himself to a person who he really didn't have to do it. Now, what I mean by that is, yes, you had to find somebody with an image that could have propelled yourself, you're going to try and change things around here and stuff like that, XYZ, all that stuff. We understand that. But at the same time, while you were going to go through this period of being bad, or you're going to go through this period of like removing XYZ, you still could have done that with getting a general manager and also getting a business side president who can handle all these other things. And when you look at Ron Rivera from a actual coaching standpoint, when you marry yourself to a person and give him all that responsibility, he's now in charge of both sides of the business to some degree, but also the coaching to some degree. And when a person who is trying to change the culture, and you're talking about a rebuild that takes 3 to 5 years, all that good stuff, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that this is something that occurs. But when you're talking about like actual visual, tangible improvements, you don't go from 7-9 to possibly 4-13. You don't go from 7-9 to possibly 3-14. You go from 7-9 to maybe another 7-9 season, but visible improvement on the field. You're competing on both sides of the ball, things like that. Right now, it doesn't even look like they're competing on both sides of the ball. Like sometimes the offense shows up, sometimes the defense shows up. Sometimes you wonder where both sides are. You're getting blown out against the top tier teams. The Buffalo Bills waxed them. Like things like that. And I don't know. I'm not saying that it's over for Ron Rivera. I wouldn't say that. But I will say is when you're talking about certain things and trying to transfer things or transform the culture, you don't want to see regression. You want to see something stable. You want to see the arrow going up. But right now, it looks like it's going down in his second year. And that's not what you want. You want to be in the rebuilds of the Arizona Cardinals, the Cleveland Browns, the not the Miami Dolphins and not the New York Giants, who have the quarterbacks and they're losing. You want to be at the top tier, guys.
But Maul, I don't think it's about wins and losses on the field. You got to think about the culture that was there in Washington. Ron's presence alone changed the whole conversation about what type of organization we got or we cheer for now. Like, it's not about wins and losses anymore. Like, in this sense, Ron has an extended, I don't want to call it a leash, but he has more time. He has a longer rope because he literally came in and changed the culture. You got the investigation thing that happened, which was a distraction. But how did Ron handle that? He pivoted. Like he handled it like a boss. Like, so in the past, that would have been a mess for a whole 2, 3, 4 years. Now, like, people think about it, but it's not at the top of their minds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so the way he's handled things, the type of guys and players that he's brought in, it has completely changed the way we view Washington football, honestly. So the wins and losses, from a fan perspective, they do matter. But to Dan, Ronnie worked for a while because he's changed everything, the way the culture's perceived.
And I wasn't implying earlier he's getting fired. I just meant in year 3 is he going to, draft a young quarterback. But I I kind of agree with a little bit parts of both of you. You know, like Jamal, I agree with you that the team hasn't really showed progress. I don't really care about the record particularly. You know, I was predicted they were going to be 2-6 at this point, just because of the teams they played, but they haven't. It doesn't look like they've improved on the field, and that's, you know, I think that's sort of where
where I
you're
was
going
getting
with it.
to.
Yeah, and I
They haven't
agree with
improved
that.
on the field, or they haven't even at least resembled what they looked like the second half of last year. They haven't resembled that part. They've looked like they've gotten worse.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm a bit disappointed in general, is that. But yeah, I mean, I think that he's dealt with a ton too. He had cancer, you know. I mean, the COVID stuff threw everything for a loop. I mean, he's dealt with a lot of things. And if you had like a Jim Zorn in here, it would have been a complete total disaster. And because Ron has strength of character and strength, and he's got a lot of significant leadership ability. It's held a lot of things together. And so I agree with you, Robert, and Rob in that regard too. But I got to be honest and say I've been disappointed with their play on the field, not because they're not winning, but because they look like a mess. You know, and that's where I'm disappointed in them.
And that's why I want to reiterate. I agree with Rob. I agree with you, Rob. In the sense that this is something where, from a macro point of view, the culture is changing, and things are kind of, seems like it's exiting, and it's taking some time, and it's supposed to take some time. Like, that's supposed to happen. And I think that's why I was trying to point to two different sides. Like, we're talking about one side, and then we're talking about actually on the field, and then there's the business, or there's the cultural side, like the day-to-day operations at Washington, FedEx Field, etc., Redskins Park, whatever it is. And that's kind of where I was pointing the two differences. Like, while you're taking care of one side, you're kind of slacking on the other side. They kind of have to be together in order for people to visibly see that things are improving.
Yeah, I think I don't know if fans see what's going on as an improvement right now. I think that's the biggest issue.
And I can say, from a guy who has been outside counsel to an NFL team, not Washington, another team, but I was in the building, and there's a distinct difference between what goes on the football side and what goes on the business side. Mm-hmm. They're totally separate, completely separate. And a lot of these NFL things, you know, sort of stay at the top, and they shouldn't bleed down to the players. And a lot of times they don't. And, you know, like the stuff I was doing for this NFL team had nothing to do with football at all. It was contracts and sponsors and all kinds of stuff. So yeah. I think there's a dividing line that I don't know if a lot of fans realize. Ron deals with the team. Jason Wright deals with the stuff I dealt with, and it's not. It's like it's a different world entirely.
I understand it is, but again, we are talking about the social media age, and Steve, social media wasn't a thing when you were doing that
it's
either.
Not a thing for me now.
Yeah, but I do wonder if players see what's going on, and, you know, see the stuff like the whole Sean Taylor jersey retirement thing. Like, I can't help but think that the players, they saw fans' reaction. They must have realized, that was botched. Yeah. You know, so I wonder how much that does it with young guys, and these aren't even millennials now. They're whatever came after millennials. You know, these are guys 21 years old. They're on social media all the time. So I wonder about that. We are kind of at a good wrap-up point, honestly, and I know everyone's saying, hey, we got to wrap up. So, Rob, want to thank you for coming on again. I know you're a busy guy. You got, you know, all the stuff you're doing out there out west. So thank you for popping on the show again for our mid-season recap.
Our bye-week spectacular.
Bye-week spectacular. Not a 4-hour-long one like the first one we did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Lord. I'm glad I wasn't there for that.
No.
You were not. No.
It wasn't our proudest moment.
No.
But hey, Rob, for sure, definitely appreciate you hopping on for us, man. And congratulations to the things you got going on, boss, man. You be safe, man.
Yeah. I hope your family does well and all that. Yeah.
Anytime, man.
All right. Good talking to you, Rob.
All right.
Jamal, I know you got flag football to go play. So.
Yeah, man. I gotta go score 6 touchdowns in the last game of the season before these playoffs start.
Go do your Terry impression. That's what I'll say.
Jordan Reed is what they call me. I'm more sort of the slot man's at tight ends in flag football, so I'm on my Jordan Reed stuff. You know, nobody can check me.
Gotcha. All right, go get some red zone looks. All right.
All right.
And Steve, I don't know what you're doing after the show, but you go do whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah, whatever it is I do, which is probably boring. So yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what you're up to. You could be like going out to eat or something. I don't know. So
He can actually be using the grill.
yeah.
Or
No,
or
I don't think Steve knows
the stovetop.
Why? When you have a microwave.
Oh, Jamal, I just bought a new smoker. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, we need to talk about that. I'm interested. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk post show.
You know about a pit barrel? I mean, what is it? A pit barrel? You
I know about pit barrel. Yeah. We'll talk. We'll talk.
Well, we ain't going. Look, about Steve is going through it. He doesn't like. He likes microwave information, not actual time consuming.
2,000 watts,
grilling
Steve.
tips.
2,000.
Guys are boring me.
All right. Okay, guys. We will talk to you next week. We have our pregame show as we take on, who is it? Tampa? Oh, God. That's going to be awful.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you then. Later.